Welcome to Survive Anything Canada, the channel where we show you the tools and skills you'll need to survive in almost any emergency situation. On this episode, we're going to take a glimpse into the world of paracord. We'll look at some of the ways to keep this invaluable tool close at hand every day, and a few of the ways to use this ingenious item to survive in the wilderness, whether it be urban wilderness or wilderness. With any luck, when we're through here, you'll walk away with a greater understanding and appreciation for this simple tool and its modest beginnings. What do you say we get roped in and get started where it all began? Back in World War II, this particular 550 paracord was designed as a high-test parachute line able to withstand up to 550 pounds of pressure, hence the name used today. Once on the ground, these troopers soon began to realize that it had many more uses, and they would end up cutting the line from their chutes, bundle it up a little bit, carry it with them, and get really creative with it later on. Pretty much all of these uses are still in use today, from laces to your footwear, which is much stronger than a standard shoelace, by the way, and all the way up to sutures that you can use in medical situations. So anywhere in between that is kind of where we're going to kind of look at today, because I'm not going to show you how to suture myself, and shoelaces are boring. So we're going to look at some of the other cool uses and take a closer look at the paracord itself. See ya. We'll be right back. Now, it's really crappy outside and I don't have a really big yard, so I'm kind of limited as to what I've got for sticks available to me. So we're going to have to improvise. I'll be with you guys in 1 second here. I just have to grab it. Alright, so here we have my forest fresh stick. You're going to want something fairly rigid. You don't want it to snap, but you don't want a lot of flex in it either. So you might have to hunt a little while for it to find just the right one, but when you do, you will be glad that you did. When you find just the right one, it'll be a much better end product. So here we go. So now I'm having this issue here. There we go. So again, we're going to do kind of the same idea that we had for the first knife handle that we did. The same basic idea. Set this up here. I'm sure out there somewhere somebody's finding this quite comical, and I really don't blame you. Learn from my mistake last time here. I'm going to leave myself a little more line at the top. Alright. So there we go. Now, out in the woods, in a survival situation, you're not going to have probably a chunk of tape to do this with. But I am not in that situation at the moment. So we are going to take a piece of tape just to secure this. And I really should be, since I am preaching safety, I should be using, especially the way I'm fumbling around here. Yeah, I should definitely have that piece of cardboard on there. Okay, so we are going to do that again out in the wild. You may not have that option, but since we're not in the wild and I am trying to show you how to be doing this safely, I suppose I should show you covering the blade with something. It's So same thing, same sort of start. You're going to go around the end of your stick. Haha, very funny, I know. Keep that out of the way. Same thing, you're going to want this nice and tight. Again, maybe not the greatest knife in the world for this because of the curved handle, but when you need something, you don't always have the option of being picky about it. And other than my giant buck knife, which I didn't think would make a very good spear, this was the next closest thing that I had found. Alright, we've got a few rows into it here, so now I can just start rotating. Now I put it through there. Good there. Now see, I left myself enough line to pull this time. And again, I'm not going to pull it all the way up in there because I do want to get this undone at some point. But when you're using it as a spear, you're not going to want to, so you are going to want to pull this in as far as you can. Again, you would cut that off, heat it. Same thing at the top, cut it off, heat it, press it. And there you go. Spear. Or just imagine that part's not there. Trailing string. You can see that it's on there quite well. A little bit of movement, not much. I imagine I could have gotten that a little bit tighter, but just trying to be quick. When you're in the wild, you'll want to be quick, but you're also going to want to make sure it's thoroughly done. But I think this would do in a survival situation, and it would be quite effective as either a weapon or a hunting tool. And it didn't take long to make. So once I got shelter up and going, it would be nothing for me to throw one of these together, and you've got yourself a way to hunt small animals if you're any good at spear fishing, and you can also use it as defense. So there we go, guys. I'm going to take this apart now, and then I will meet you back here for the next part of our segment, which we're going to show you some of the actual uses other than just a spear. There's a ton of things you can use this stuff for, and I think I'm going to show you the fishing lures next. How to make yourself a nice little complete fishing rig. Alright guys, we'll be back in a few. Okay. Here we have some of the basics that we're going to need to start making the fishing rig. So again, you're going to need some sort of stick or something that you're going to use as a fishing pole. You can hand line it, but I definitely recommend finding some sort of stick or lengthy stable object of some sort to tie your line off to. And then inside here, inside this paracord, we've got several different strands. So you'd end up taking the shielding off of your entire paracord, which you can then use as well to tie off light things. And then it leaves you with all of this strand inside, which we are going to use to make our fishing line. And the only thing you can't make, I guess, is the hook, obviously. But we're going to use this to make a stringer for our fish. Nothing fancy, but it will work. As well as, so cut your end. You're going to have lure as well, almost like a fly or a jig. So you just kind of keep working it until you get all your strands coming right out of there. And then you're left with just the empty casing, which is can go back in as your bootlaces. It can be used to tie stuff to your pack. It can be used just about anything that the whole paracord itself can be used for, just not as strong. So again, what you're going to want to do, if you're going to tie these together, let's separate two of these strands for now. Try not to lose our hook. Take two strands, set the rest aside. So I have found the easiest way to connect these. Let's just pile this on the table so it's not falling off of there. So unless you're really experienced with knots, which there aren't a whole lot of people that are these days, we're going to take our two strands, and this is super simple to do. So we're going to take the first one, and we're just going to tie a simple knot around the first strand. Then we're going to take that first strand and tie it around the strand that we just used to make our first knot with. And then when we pull them together, bingo. Now that line is twice its length. And you just tie those as many as you need together over and over again until you reach the length that you are looking for. Then you take your line. Again, this isn't going to fool all fish because they are going to see the line, but I suppose you could unstrand this a little bit further. I'll see if I can show you that it does go down a little bit more. It does definitely get finer, but as you take more and more strands off, you are also losing your string. That's still pretty tough though, so you know what, let's do that. I'm gonna take it down one more here. Separate that a little bit more. The way it's twisted together, it does get a little more difficult to separate. And maybe an ingenious tied those two pieces together. So we're not going to go all the way with it, but there, now that is in half once more. As you can see there, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it will come down further. But like I said, you don't want to take it down too far because you're going to start losing strength. And already, being that this isn't actual fishing line, you're going to start noticing some difference in the effectiveness. So a quick little heat to put that together. Oh, I'm shaking. There we go. And then you just use any sort of knot you're familiar with. Again, doesn't have to be anything special because the fish are going to see that line regardless. You're just going to have to fish for less picky fish. So just give that a double knot. Oh my goodness. There we go. And then you trim that off. And then you've got yourself length of fishing line. So at least you're not going to starve. And you can tie all of these together and you get yourself to one 10-foot line. You're going to end up with 70 feet of fishing line. So it's very convenient to carry it all in one little length like that. Now we'll take some that I cut off that earlier. So as you see here, there's the strands coming out of there. So what we're going to do to make our lure, that's already kind of the way we want it. We'll just maybe pull a little bit more out. I'm going to take our knife and give it, let's see here. We're going to want right about there. Off. This part can be a little bit tricky. All I had on hand was one of these bent shaft hooks here, so I'm going to have to be a little bit careful. Just kind of feed it through till you get the eye out the top. Now again, this is probably a little better if you have some of the green or the orange or something like that. Something a little bit better colored, a little brighter. But you get the idea anyway, so look how easy that was. And you can kind of separate. Oh, I just yanked one out completely. But, okay, so to avoid doing that again, we're going to take our lighter, we're going to apply heat, get that end melted, and then press. Go. So then, like I showed you with the fishing line, so now if you have the time and the patience, you can separate these out further. I don't really have the patience. Imagine if I was in the bush with nothing better to do with my time, then this would be a much better endeavor. Don't do that with yourself. Yeah, you get the idea. You can fluff that out as much as you'd like. Got yourself a nice little fishing lure. You might want to heat that around the end of it there without burning your tassels off. I said tassels, not something else. That something else only happens when you eat a lot of Mexican food. Then you burn your tassels off. Alright, so there we go. So we've got our fishing line, we've got our fishing lure, and I'm accumulating some clutter here. Now we're going to take our full cord, or you can even take the hollowed out cord. This is where it's nice to have like a heavy duty needle or something like that you'd want, but ideally that'd be the way to go. But you can just take this itself, singe the end, and press just to keep it solid. But yeah, ideally you'd want something metal on the end to put through your fish to use as a stringer. But in a pinch, when you have nothing else, this will do just fine. And the longer you have, the longer length of paracord that you've got, the longer you've got for so if you're on a bit of a bluff or something like that, a little bit of an embankment before the water, you've at least got a way to keep your fish fresh in the water on a stringer. So there's our fishing rig. You've got your lure, you've got your line. If you take your spear apart, you've got yourself a stick. But then you can't defend yourself if that bear comes looking for the fish that you just caught. So maybe don't do that quite yet. Either way, that's our little fishing rig that we've got in case of an emergency. Now again, so you can use this as a bow drill. I don't have anything right now. I don't have a length of stick or anything that can bend, or I'd show you how to use a bow drill. But any of you who are familiar with Cub Scouts or anything like that, starting your own fires, you'd know what a bow drill is. You can use your chunk of line that you had hollowed out as a tourniquet to prevent bleeding. So you would take that, and you tie it over, and then you would put a stick through there. I don't have anything that uses that at the moment. And then you would twist it and continue twisting it until it cuts off the circulation to the part of your body that's losing blood. And then you would give a little knot loop over top of the stick to hold it into place. Oh my god, I'm just making a mess of myself here. Okay. And give me 1 second, I'll be right back, and I'll reset my station here, and I'll show you a few other little tools that you can create using just paracord and some ingenuity. Alright guys, so what we're going to do next, I've got a little chunk of the paracord here. This is the stuff that we had hollowed out earlier. So just this stuff, for example, even after, you'd think that the casing's done and garbage because you gutted it. Now, this can be used as shoelace. You can see, like, super strong. Like, it's still way more strength than a standard shoelace has. And there's many things that you can do with this after it's been gutted as well. Right now, I'm going to show you here. This will be a smaller version, but this will be a sling for firewood. Super simple to make. All you got to do is make a knot that'll slide back and forth on the paracord itself. So just something like that. So make yourself one loop like that. Then you just got to do the same thing on the other side. There you go. So now you slip that over one end of your firewood bundle, that over the other end, cinch it up, whatever size, hold your firewood tight, and then you got a handle right there. So this is a little bit smaller version. This will only carry some tinder for you, but some small branches and stuff would work for that one too. But you can make this any size, and it is just made from the leftover, what you'd consider scrap, after we made our fishing line and whatever else you ended up needing your internal strands for, the core strands. So just to show you that, just because you've taken it apart doesn't mean its uses are now ending. This stuff still has a ton of strength that standard rope is either equal to or has more strength than standard rope. Definitely stronger than shoelaces. Tons and tons of stuff. Obviously we don't have time for me to show you everything that this stuff can do, but just as a recap, for example, so you can lash your knife to a stick and you've got yourself an instant weapon for defense, hunting, whatever you need it for. I'm going to say defense or hunting only, probably not the best to use it in any other situation. You may end up getting yourself arrested. So yeah, the sling for carrying firewood. So there's your complete fishing setup. Again, so even this stuff here can be used, even though it's hollowed out. So you wrap that around your arm, tie it off, put your piece of wood in there. It's hard to do with one hand for an example. And you twist the piece of wood and it slowly tightens. Let's see if I can kind of make it do it here. May have to fast forward for visual effect. Let's see. So eventually it tightens and it'll get uncomfortable, but it'll stop the blood flow and it'll maybe stop you from bleeding out in the field. Fire starter, the inside of it and the core and the shell itself are both flammable. Nylon, once you get if you use a lighter or whatever, once you get that flame started on it, you can use it in wet conditions to help get some of your tinder start going. Bow drill, I didn't have time to show you guys that one. Again, I don't have a lot of access to sticks in my yard. All the ones that I do have will snap. So, but you find yourself a nice sapling or some green wood that's got a nice, you can get a nice curve to it. You tie this to each end, then same thing, you put your stick in it, give it a twist so that it's slightly wrapped around, and as you saw back and forth while your hand is on top of the stick with the bow, again, you need some sort of wood. So maybe Northwestern Ontario, not a great example for that bow drill to happen, because you want a non-resinous wood, so something that doesn't have a lot of sap and stuff on the inside of it. It needs to be fairly dry, so like balsa wood, stuff like that. So if you were to carry a piece of that with you, you could use this as a bow drill to start a fire. Ladder rope, again, with some simple knots and some fairly strong sticks. You can make a rope to get yourself up a tree, or to a safe place. Maybe climb down the side of an embankment. I don't know if I would do that unless it's an absolute emergency. Hammocks and netting, clothesline. This stuff is amazing for clothesline, because as it gets wet from the clothes, it doesn't lose its resilience. It maintains a good strength to it. Snares and traps, that I don't have time to show you, and sitting here in my living room probably isn't a great spot for that. I don't have a lot of space to show you how a snare might work in that kind of situation, but if you look up online, there are tons of demonstration videos from guys who know what they're talking about, and they will show you how to build a snare in an emergency situation from this very stuff. So you've got your, you can use it as thread to fix your clothing and suture yourself should it come to that. It's not the most sanitary way to go about it, but if you're in an emergency situation and it stops you from bleeding out, then better to make it home with a little bit of an infection than not make it home at all, right? I'm sure your family would agree with that. And definitely for shelters and for your tarp lines, you can use it to lash two pieces of wood together to start the edges of a tent or any other kind of shelter. This stuff is just amazing, guys. I can't get over how great this stuff is. I keep a bundle of it at home all the time. I keep a bundle in the truck, and I'm probably going to wrap a few of my knives myself. Axe handles, you can wrap the butt of your gun with it. Endless possibilities with this stuff, guys. So again, thanks for joining us for this video. Like, subscribe, join us. Don't forget to check out everything else on Survive Anything Canada's site, surviveanything.ca. And yeah, we hope to see you back for the next video. And make sure you check out our blog too on surviveanything.ca. There's a great post up right now about the basics and introduction to survival. So again, thanks guys. Look forward to seeing you. Cheers. Stay safe.